will do. Still working on getting the ideal camera angle. So I apologize. Working on it, okay? And I should actually be on the other side here, shouldn't I? Yeah, this one too. Just don't ask, okay? Just don't even ask. Testing, testing. Should be able to hear me. No one can hear me? Really? You're much quieter than the music. Oh, that's fine. That'll be fixed shortly. The music's loud. There we go. How's that? Better? Yeah. I literally did this on the plane, so I had my set taken from a screenshot. ChatGPT, extend it. Because I lost all my background, so. We're in the midst of a reclamation, okay? It'll take a bit of time. I guess we want this a little bit further this way then, like that. That's more centered, sort of. Yeah, kind of. That kind of lines up pretty nicely, actually. Not perfectly. But if you're not paying attention, it's kind of psychedelic. Alrighty. We've had 2 hit pieces in the last 2 days. I'm feeling kind of important, to be honest with you. A little excited as well, actually. Do you realize how long I have been waiting for people to make a proper hit piece? And we're still waiting, unfortunately. Oh, wow. Oh, that looks so good. Look how uncanny that is. It looks like it's actually an extension of the desk if you're not paying attention. Oh, I kind of like that. That is weird. That is weird. Anywho. We're going to cover that tonight. We'll see how long we go for that. It's long. And I want to watch the Professor Dave thing. And I want to watch Norman Finkelstein on Hassan Piker. But one of those is going to drop. I don't know if we're going to have room for all of that tonight. Hit pieces by irrelevant little people. I mean, I'm an irrelevant... Oh, ill people. I'm an irrelevant little people. What episode of Meat Canyon were you in? The meaty one. I wasn't in Meat Canyon. There's just somebody posted an image that looked like it. I'm trying to convince myself I have a Christopher Hitchens physique and not a grandmother's physique, okay? So, not sure who's winning the battle here. Alright. Well, without further ado, I suppose we should just get into it, shouldn't we? I guess before I do a quick plug, I rely on Patreon to keep the lights on, and to do spend all of the time I do doing research and such for the video essays. I do a lot of work for those, and indeed a lot of prep for the streams, believe it or not. If you like my content, you want to help me continue to do it, please consider joining the Patreon. There's exclusive streams, there is exclusive merch, there will be new exclusive merch soon. There will be printout bookmarks soon. There is early access to pre-prepared content, and soon early access to book reviews and fireside chat content, because I have a new set for that. I'm going to start doing that tomorrow. Otherwise, super chats of $5 and up are read out by TTS, and memberships get you access to the entire stream backlog. And thank you everybody who supports the channel. You make everything possible. It's a lot of work, and unfortunately I have no chill, so I don't do it the easy way, but I think it's rewarding. I think I'm also going to be doing... I think I'm going to be doing the reading lists in the fireside chat format, because with the new format, I can actually show the physical books on a really nicely lit desk, so that's going to be kind of cool. Anywho. I was reading Aristotle and I stopped to watch this. This is indeed the way of my people. Alright, let's pull up what we're gonna be doing today. Not this one. This is why not? I'll be nice. very quickly before we press on, I'm gonna pop up my screen here. It's gonna be over my head because I haven't moved it. This is a video that we're not watching tonight, but this is by a channel called Diaplatinus. I don't know what it's about. Apparently it's about the metaphysics of whiteness. We're not watching it, but if you're interested in that, that's on my screen at the moment because I clicked on a link. We'll pull up the hit piece right now. Let's turn this music off. This is far too loud. My apologies. Okay. Sorry, I'm still working at everything. I can't necessarily hear all of the music that's on screen, so I'm catching up. Catching up, okay? I guess I'll just search my name. President Sunday. Here we go. Oh, I'm actually having trouble finding it. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. It's still there, right? No way you took it down. That would be unfortunate. It'd be very typical, but it would be unfortunate. Let's see here. Where is it? Where is it? Here we go. Aha! Alright, so we have here, this is an interesting title. This is a channel called Beyond Left and Right, very few subscribers, which, you know, everyone starts somewhere. I'm not going to knock them for that, and I have few subscribers as well. The Weakness of President Sunday. The Weakness of President Sunday. You don't need a video essay for that, dude. Have you seen how often I'm sick? Oh my god. Anywho, it's got a picture of John Mearsheimer, and as I click on the preview, it says, John Mearsheimer, with much aplomb. And his realism is offensive, apparently. Typical liberals. Can only handle realism in a safe space. Anywho, The Weakness of President Sunday. Here we go. Hold on to your butts.
Posing himself as not only not...
Let's see. Whoop, bloop, 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 bloop.
And let me be very clear about this.
Okay.
He's smeared Mearsheimer in the process of engaging in personal gain. So he's taking payments from people and supposedly giving his political theory, and he's just insulting and mischaracterizing somebody. He's shameless. Utterly shameless.
Utterly.
But if Sunday's objection is...
I like that pink smoke background.
Really that realism is just liberalism at the state level, then recommending another realist doesn't explain why realism supposedly shares liberalism's assumptions. It simply points to another realist. Can you see how absurd this all is? Can you see how... This is why I said it's quite obvious when we watch this video, this is someone who is completely fake. Now,
okay, but you know what's real? I learned a recipe today. I made it as a side for the jerk pork ribs we had tonight, and they were phenomenal. Zucchini fried in olive oil, fresh mint, garlic, sea salt, white wine vinegar. Except no substitute. It will taste divine. Anyways.
They're performative, and they're masquerading as someone who is seriously engaging with political theory. It's quite obvious. What we see here is somebody who's very weak going after a very strong target, and then it's like it's ending up awfully.
Is it?
A couple of weird things just happened today. There's been an eerie synchronicity. Professor John Mearsheimer, one of the most influential scholars of international relations in the world.
Oh yeah, John Mearsheimer did make a YouTube video, or YouTube channel. He doesn't have a lot of subscribers. I don't know if he started making this basically right after he made that channel. What's he at now? Because he's doing really good for views. Which, I mean, obviously, it's John Mearsheimer. Yeah, he's almost at 100,000 views already. He's like 90,000 after like a day, 2 days.
Created his own YouTube channel. And interestingly, just 3 hours prior to that, President Sunday did a hack hit piece on him. And a very awful one at that, as far as hack hit pieces go.
Mm-hmm.
It was so unbelievably awful, in fact, that it requires a lengthy video analysis such as this.
Oh boy, that is a hardcover of Benny Morris's Righteous Victims right there. I recognize that cover anywhere. What else do we have in the background here? I don't recognize a lot of these things, unfortunately. I saw a physical copy of Man, State, and War for the first time the other day. Really flimsy, don't buy it.
So get yourselves ready and strap in for a wild ride.
Oh, I'm strapped.
Interestingly, to add to the synchronicity, I was literally on the verge of doing a second responding to your comments and channel update video. At the start of that video, I was going to feature a piece responding to the comments of a couple of President Sunday's viewers and their absolute political illiteracy and
You're going to make a video responding to comments under my videos?
their mud throwing. I wasn't planning to do a critique of President Sunday directly.
That's very weird. Why would you make a video critique of a commenter?
Even though I could see that he was probably the reason or an influence as to why the people in his own comments had such bad takes like this. But
Hey, look, I didn't even make that video, okay? That one, I commissioned that from the editor, and I gave them full carte blanche, and I think they did an okay job.
everything kind of weirdly fell into place to where we are now.
They in the plural, it wasn't just the editor. The editor's a he.
I'm going to give a rather long introduction to this video because I think it's important for our greater political understanding of how the left operates in practice.
How the left operates in practice. How the left operates in practice. That's an interesting sentence. It's important for our understanding of how the left operates in practice. Okay.
It's nearly as important as the FD signifier scandal.
There was an FD signifier scandal.
But if you don't have the patience for any of this and you just want to know why I have an issue with President Sunday's take on international relations,
Why isn't the editor getting any hit pieces? I'm working on it, okay? Working on it.
check the description box below and jump to part 1. Okay, so President Sunday was presented to me via the algorithm, probably because of
It's working.
overlapping topics. I saw some thumbnails like his critique of FD signifier, so it was apparent that he was
What the hell is that? I didn't even see this one. What the hell is this, editor? That is horrifying.
doing similar stuff, but I hadn't been watching him that closely, just dipping in and out and occasionally dropping a comment here and there. Over time, however, it became apparent the quality of his content was rather poor. For example, I was planning to do a video on Zizek the
Okay, this is President Sunday Dark, by the way. I typically stream on President Sunday. Used to be called Prime, it's just President Sunday now. Where I have full video essays and theory segments. And I talk about politics specifically. You are on the Clips channel. This is not prepared content or pre-prepared content. These are clips of off-the-cuff responses that I do. And some of them, I will agree, I don't like them that much. But those are segments from a live stream, unfortunately. That is not actually the main channel.
other week, and the day before I planned to start producing the video, I saw that President Sunday had just...
And by the by, this is kind of important because a segment is not planned. A segment happens. Sometimes I decide in advance that I'm going to do a segment on something, but that doesn't mean that I know what I'm going to say going into it or what I'm going to be seeing and reacting to, which means that segments are never hit pieces. Nothing on the President Sunday Dark channel, unless it is pre-prepared, is a hit piece. It is just a react.
released one of his own. So I held back on publishing my own Zizek piece and watched his video.
Okay.
And at that time, I just remember thinking, what a wasted opportunity of a video because he didn't actually say anything of substance. But then it got worse.
It got worse.
Because I saw 2 hit piece videos on Bad Empanada,
Whoa.
which were utterly awful. And it became quite apparent that this isn't someone who is seriously engaging in politics or activism and is just attacking other YouTubers and doing pretend politics to satisfy his own ego.
Okay.
And that's quite a claim I'm making. And
These are Bad Empanada videos, actually. These aren't mine. These are videos by Bad Empanada. You see in the channel name there? These aren't me. These are videos by Bad Empanada about me.
as this video progresses, you'll see why that is. He's recently taken to accusing everyone and their brother, and specifically Bad Empanada, of using AI to create their own videos. Or
Specifically Bad Empanada. This is a Bad Empanada viewer, isn't it? This is a Bad Empanada fanboy. That's what this is. Alright, well, let's hear about how I'm weak.
or to create the scripts of their videos. He'd already tried to do another hit piece on Bad Empanada regarding his earlier views on Bernie Sanders changing over time. And as you can see from these comments, the video wasn't completely received well. Right, if he turned on a dime, maybe, but he has probably hundreds of hours of content that took thousands of hours to produce, where you can see the shift in his beliefs.
How long? Okay, hang on. How long are we spending talking about Bad Empanada? Are we going to get to the meat of this soon?
A shift that happened relatively not long after the video.
Okay, this needs to be an extensive, long video, right? But we're spending a lot of time talking about me making content about Bad Empanada. Just by itself. That's apparently the thing. That's a little weird.
And is publicly linked to real-world events.
And it merits this. I'm sorry. I wasn't going to do that. You forced my hand.
This is just seething cope. President Sunday, when he realizes that people's opinions can change over many years, this is embarrassing. Yeah, BE is a grifter because you like Bernie a decade ago. Okay. It seems like most people get what's going on here. This just seems really petty, to be honest. Like, yeah, he liked Bernie, what, 6 to 10 years ago? And now he's changed his mind? Does that make...
No, he's calling people who don't hate Bernie literal Zionists. I think it's a little bit different.
Him a hypocrite or just someone whose thoughts changed over time? Oh, and Sunday's rebuttal to this point, do you think he would extend this kind of consideration to anyone? Grow up, dude. I don't know or care if he'd extend it to me. I would still extend it to almost anyone. It's a matter of...
Well, that's dumb.
Principle. You don't take someone's words from years and years ago as if it reflects exactly who they are today.
Really? So you're pro-Platner then. Good to know.
I'm sorry, did he bomb a hospital or something? You're making it sound like he committed some sort of horrible crime, even though he's just expressing tepid support for what seemed like a promising politician at the time. When he no doubt had limited information about Bernie, he wasn't a child.
Just take all of this and transplant that onto any single person who is pro-Platner up until the sexual assault allegations.
When he said this, no. But that doesn't mean he was just well informed back then, as he seems to be now. I don't even like this guy very much, but you just take every odd angle to badmouth him even when it makes sense. Yeah, there's definitely like a vendetta going on here. My question is, when was that video recorded and released? If it was 10 years ago, then what's the big deal? Okay, B wouldn't extend the same grace to someone else. B is an asshole. We all know that, but I'm not sure he's a grifter. Yeah, he's not a grifter. If he was a grifter, he'd be behaving. I've said this before in previous videos. If BE was a grifter, his methodology would be different. There are things that are more important to Bad Empanada than money. I'm not saying that Bad Empanada's not bothered about money. He obviously is, but there are things that he prioritizes ahead of that. Whereas your average grifter is prioritizing the money they're getting from YouTube.
Can I jump ahead? Check. Am I cheating if I jump ahead? Like, Jesus Christ. I didn't realize it was going to take this long. Oh my god. Why are you... He's still in the comments. Look at this. 13 minutes in. We're still in the comments. We're still talking about Bad Empanada. Why are we talking about Bad Empanada? Okay, here we go. There's Mearsheimer on the screen. Alright.
The video itself is an hour long, but he only spends the first half hour giving his awful takes on Mearsheimer and completely exposing himself as not only not having a clue about international relations,
there we go,
but exposing himself as someone who was completely politically illiterate himself. And I mean that in a very literal sense, in that it's clear this guy hasn't read any of the books he claims to have read.
Okay.
And I explain why. Okay,
this is what I'm here for.
In detail as we progress.
Okay.
He's too busy.
I'm a hack fraud who doesn't read what I claim to read. We're okay. Locked in. Let's do this.
Playing with his Legos, his swords, and his other toys, because halfway through this video,
what have you got against Lego?
His short attention span drifts away, and he completely loses whatever focus he had on pretending to refute Mearsheimer and all of IR theory, and he starts talking about his man-child activities. And by the way, this is only days, I think, after he created another video criticizing breadshoot creators for creating useless long-form content. So the hypocrisy is palpable, and it's just shocking, like, the way this guy's behaving, really. Let's have a look at the first clip.
Now, a little bit about the analytical foundation of liberal hegemony, and this grows out of my discussion from last time. As I said to you, liberalism is at its root a political philosophy that focuses on the individual and places enormous emphasis on inalienable rights.
No. Very wrong, actually. In liberalism, I agree with that. There are basically only a handful of actually inalienable rights, and they aren't really rights that you would enshrine in law in a meaningful sense, because they're things like the right to life. That would be an inalienable right, and the reason for that would be because there's absolutely no way to actually enforce, a violation of a right to life, such that the person who's being violated would have to normatively comply with it. Obviously, because you lose all your cards, because what are you going to do to them? Kill them again? Be clear. Actually, is how old is this clip? Not old. I was traveling, so I made up a joke stream interface on my partner's dad's computer. Of specifically alienable rights. The entire move is that you have rights as tokens as a default, and that you can exchange them, you can justifiably sell them, and therefore create the conditions of the legitimate coercion of your body. That is liberalism. The goal of liberalism, every liberal theory fundamentally operates this way. Legitimate government is by dint of the consent of the governed. Here's the catch, though. The government in question is always one that already existed. Therefore, the principle is what is ever occupying government is occupying the role of something that is there by dint of your consent. You consent to your domination. You have alienated your rights, which initially included the right to everything. Come on, man. It's in the books. Do you even read Locke?
Completely wrong.
Completely wrong. Oh, do tell.
Liberalism actually is a theory of specifically alienable rights. What are you talking about?
Locke.
Liberalism has never been a theory of alienable rights, whatever that means.
I mean, it's not strictly speaking, it's not a theory. It is actually a cluster of theories beginning with Thomas Hobbes. But continue.
And rights aren't exchangeable tokens in liberalism.
Oh, but they are. But they are.
Never seen it framed like this because this is just comically wrong. I don't think he's ever read a book on Locke.
Oh, how I love it when they make it so. Careful, when you come for the king, you best not miss.
And the reason I say that is because you can't physically read Locke and get it this wrong this quickly. I really find that incredibly hard to believe. I'm trying to understand how someone can come to this conclusion. And I don't know if he's just making this shit up on the fly to disagree with Mearsheimer for the sake of disagreeing with him, or if he's Googled something and misread it, or maybe he's used AI and he's written some kind of bad prompt. But I cannot physically see how you can read Locke and say what this guy just said.
Well, friendo, old buddy, old pal, let me tell you, it's not using AI and it's not using Google, it's using old-fashioned pen and paper, all right? Now, what you may have noticed on these quotes, let me blow it up for you a little bit, is there aren't just words in these sections, there are numbers. What these numbers indicate to you is the section in the text where these quotes are drawn from. What you may also notice is that these numbers are a little high. This quote is from section 135. This quote is also from section 135. Now, given that you are going to critique me on the grounds that I clearly have never read Locke on the basis of these quotes, which, by the by, do not actually say at all that rights are not transferred from one person to another or can't be alienated, I would expect that you would have read previous sections to this one. You know, like for example, a much earlier section, section 87, which reads, and I quote, Man being born, as has been proved, with a title to perfect freedom and an uncontrolled enjoyment of all the rights and privileges of the law of nature equally with any other man or number of men in the world, has by nature a power not only to preserve his property, that is, his life, liberty, and estate, against the injuries and attempts of other men, but to judge of and punish the breaches of that law in others, as he is persuaded the offense deserves, even with death itself, in crimes where the heinousness of the fact, in his opinion, requires it. But, because no political society can be nor subsist without having in itself the power to preserve the property, and in order thereunto punish the offenses of all those of that society, there and there only is political society, where every one of the members has quitted this natural power, resigned it up into the hands of the community, in all cases that exclude him, not from appealing for protection to the law established by it. And thus, all private judgments of every particular member being excluded, the community comes to be umpire, and by understanding indifferent rules and men authorized by the community for their execution, decides all the differences that may happen between any members of that society concerning any matter of right, and punishes those offenses which any member hath committed against the society with such penalties as the law has established. Whereby it is easy to discern, who are and are not in political society together. Those who are united into one body and have a common established law and judicature to appeal to with authority to decide controversies between them and punish offenders are in civil society one with another. But those who have no such common appeal, I mean on earth, are still in the state of nature, each being where there is no other, judge for himself and executioner, which, as I have before showed it, is the perfect state of nature. Locke, like Hobbes, argues that the basis of civil society and the escape from a condition of nature in which there is no capacity to mutually protect property and all those goody things that society provides, argues that in a state of nature, you have an absolute right to everything, with more caveats for Locke than for Hobbes. There are rational limitations on your right to each other's bodies, for example. He argues that there is some reason of proportionality in terms of the kinds of violence you can do to other bodies based on what they do to you or the threat that they propose. And he distinguishes between the state of nature and the state of war, which is something someone like Hobbes doesn't do. However, police. How do you get a common police system? How do you get a common government, a common system of law, if everybody has the right to each other's bodies without any sort of mediary? And the answer is you can't. So what has to happen is that you give up your right to be the judge, jury, and executioner of other people to a judicial body that is common to all the people in your community, and then they have that right going forward. And the trick of liberalism is to make it so that you giving up your freedom is by your consent. You being dominated by somebody else is actually being dominated by your own consent, because your interest, your rationality led you to give up that freedom, that liberty as a token. The entire premise of liberalism is that mutual exchange is the basis of political legitimacy. If rights were truly all inalienable, they'd be like the divine right of kings, right? They would be there by dint of God. And in Locke, there are rights that are there by dint of God, but they inhere in the rationality of the world. Rights are by definition, with the exception of a very small select few, alienable in liberalism, because the alienation of rights is the basis of political legitimacy. It might help if you maybe read literally the first section of this book, which actually I didn't need to go up to 85. I could have gone a lot earlier, when, for example, by implication, it says the exact same thing. So in chapter 1, let's see. Everyone, as he is bound to preserve himself and not to quit his station willfully, so by the like reason, when his own preservation comes not in competition, ought he as much as he can to preserve the rest of mankind, and not unless it be to do justice on an offender, take away or impair the life, or what tends to the preservation of the life, the liberty, health, limb, or goods of another. In a state of nature, which is to say not in a state of civil society, not under a commonwealth, he says from the very beginning of the book, you have the right to be the executor of justice, of revenge, of preemptive violence on other human beings. Obviously, this is not the case in a state of civil society, except where, for example, your house is being broken into, someone's robbing you, someone's accosting you on the highway or whatever, and there is not time to appeal to the magistrate to come in and save you. You can infer from this that, obviously, this right is not something that people retain under a commonwealth. I love it. I love it when people try to do what I do, but they haven't done the actual work. Because here's the thing. I actually did read this shit. And it's really boring. John Locke is really boring. I didn't like it, but one of the things you do when you are doing academic stuff seriously is you do your due diligence. You read stuff that is boring, because the enjoyment and the importance that you get from it, the important stuff that you get from it, is not the pleasure in reading. You're not looking for poetry. What you get from it are insights into ways of thinking in their time, the terms that other people rely upon or are responding to, etc., etc. You are breaking into a long conversation about these topics. And so I actually have a very strong memory of cramming this very carefully, but very, very intensely over a period of a week, because I had an exam coming up, and I was sick during this section, because unfortunately, a lot of these books are actually assigned in a single survey course, and you go through them like that. So we were already at Rousseau by the time I got back to class, and I had to go through that myself. And it is very boring. I find Locke to be the most boring of the social contract theorists of that whole period. Hobbes, dry but interesting. Rousseau, less dry, very interesting. Locke, they recovered, apparently, I can't remember the year this took place in, but they recovered Locke's copy of Hobbes' Leviathan, and it was heavily marked up. I think this was remarkable partially, and again, this is a bit fuzzy, because Locke, I don't believe, actually references Hobbes' Leviathan in any of his work. I could be mistaken about that, but it's something kind of remarkable. But apparently, it might be an apocryphal story, but apparently he was like sharing around Hobbes' Leviathan with like a bunch of friends. Anywho, I digress. Let's get back to the meat of this. So, clearly one of us has not read Locke.
Maybe he's used AI and he's written some kind of bad prompt, but I cannot physically see how you can read Locke.
Oh, sorry. One moment. You've earned this.
And say what this guy just said. He's not just wrong, it's like seriously wrong. Like, to say how bad it is, it's like political philosophy 101. From Locke onwards, liberalism's defining claim is precisely that some rights can't be legitimately surrendered. Yeah?
Really? Then why doesn't the king rely on them?
And the other thing is, Mearsheimer's not giving a lecture about John Locke.
No, he's giving a lecture about liberalism.
He's giving a lecture on liberal international relations.
Oh, he's specifically on liberalism. He says what liberalism is, which includes John Locke. John Locke is actually more commonly known as a liberal than Hobbes is. Hobbes is the founder of liberal political theory. He wouldn't strictly be called a liberal in his time, because that wasn't the category of person then. But he kind of inaugurates that entire chain of reasoning. I regard him as a liberal, the first liberal. But that's what he's doing.
Modern liberal international relations. His opening sentence isn't supposed to be a comprehensive history of liberal, political philosophy going back to the English Civil War. He's laying the foundations for the argument he's about to make in his lecture for his audience.
By the way, Beyond Left and Right, you are welcome to call in at any time during this stream. Anytime. You're welcome. Just pop into my Discord. My body is ready.
It's so basic. All Mearsheimer is saying is that liberalism prioritizes the individual and universal rights.
By the way, you know what the best part about this is? My video wasn't pre-prepared. That was an off-the-cuff stream. This video is pre-prepared. This video is pre-prepared, and he went onto Google and he cherry-picked a quote from Locke, not understanding the context, not understanding the meaning of the quote, but not understanding the context, to accuse me of not reading the book. I find that fascinating. Like, he must have truly believed that I didn't read the book, right? He must truly believe that that I'm a fraud, that I don't read the stuff I claim to read. Because that takes a lot of confidence to go like, oh yeah, you know, he definitely hasn't read it. So
Elementary. And then Mearsheimer goes on to say that this creates a universalist outlook on foreign policy. So that's his argument.
okay,
Why didn't President Sunday respond to that? It's a
because I don't care about that one.
perfectly ordinary way of introducing the liberal tradition in international relations. For those of you who are kind of relatively long-time viewers to this channel, can you remember about 2 or 3 months ago, I made a video called Left and Right of Political Myths. And we had this swarm of morons reacting like I was making some completely outrageous claim.
This guy has no sense of proportion or any understanding of the difference between a content creator and a commenter. To be clear, I believe commenters are content creators in their own right. However, it is a very strange thing to respond to a comment. Not to a comment, to comments in the plural with an entire video as if these are commensurate. And make that like your primary thing. Generally, you respond with a video to someone who's put themselves out there in a video. It's a different kind of gesture. I find this so weird. There's like an entire class of nutball that it grinds. It can't handle it. Somebody in the comments says something, and I get angry at comments sometimes, and I'll snap at them. But I won't stew about them long enough to make a video. I'll be like, "Oh, you stupid fucking moron! You bet you smell," and then I'll move on with my day and do something else. What is this?
And I was explaining to them that the argument was built on very elementary principles, and the premises were straightforward.
Who's them? Who is them? You ever see me making videos about, oh, those idiots in my comments? No, because who's them?
And the reasoning was straightforward.
Yeah, those videos that you saw where Bad and Panada followers like swarmed into my comments and like disagreed with the video criticizing Bad and Panada. You think I made a video about Bad and Panada's commenters? Why? That's like obviously what's going to happen.
The conclusion only seemed radical to them because it challenged assumptions that they'd never questioned before.
By the way, he's never going to call in. It's like clockwork. These people never call. Imran was joking. I've historically been a lot more optimistic, but I don't even have the heart to disagree anymore. Even Imran was just like, you know, he's never going to talk to you. These people will never come on and talk. They'll just shoot a bunch of bullshit that they've done zero research or prep into. And then they'll just crawl into a corner and hide until you move on. It's so predictable. Just here to watch a trash fire. What an appropriate name. Thank you for the 10 gifted memberships. I very much appreciate that.
But the reaction was just so hyperbolic and comical.
Oh no, is it going to do that for every single one? Oh no, it is. There we go. Keep me hanging there. Hang on, I gotta fix this now. We'll let him play while I'm doing that. We're not gonna miss anything.
Because you realize that a lot of them just don't understand how to construct an argument, and they just
This is like the 2001 A Space Odyssey of hit pieces.
don't or can't engage rationally. And then what happened was, it took a week or two of them hanging around the channel mocking me until they ultimately realized their position was wrong. And some of them just deleted their original comments. The comments just mysteriously disappeared. And the others just pretended like they
I'm sure they were scared of you.
agreed with me the entire time. The same thing happened with the FD Signify scandal. The ones who were disagreeing for the sake of disagreeing mysteriously disappeared by the time I made the last video in that series. It's like the FD signifier bait and switch method of ego protection. And President Sunday does the same thing here. He doesn't engage what is actually being talked about. He immediately changes the subject.
Uh-huh.
So instead of engaging Mearsheimer's actual argument, he brings up Locke. Like, suddenly we're no longer talking about contemporary liberal hegemony or American or Western foreign policy. We're talking about whether Locke believed rights were inalienable or inalienable.
Yeah, why? Because that's what Mearsheimer said, and that he was wrong. And why do you think it's called the liberal approach to international relations theory or tradition or whatever? Why do you think? Do you think there might be a connection between these two things? Do you think one might be informing the other? Possibly. I can recommend you some books on it. They absolutely are. There's a great one I recommend to everybody called The Political Discourse of Anarchy by Brian C. Schmidt. Great book. History of International Relations Theory. You'll get a lot out of it.
Even if Sunday were correct about Locke, which he isn't, he's laughably wrong, that still wouldn't refute the argument Mearsheimer is actually making, because he's not engaged.
I can't get over this. Laughably wrong, sir. You didn't even have the quote right. Can I pull this up just so you can see this? I want you to actually see this on the screen, okay? I know, Imran. I was supposed to do that earlier. John Locke, Second Treatise of Government, full text. The most boring text in canonical political theory, but still necessary to understand if you're going to do political science or political philosophy. It behooves you to know this stuff right here. Wait, is it this one? What is it? I said 85, right? Did I say 87? I said 87. Yeah. It's right here. But because no political society can be or subsist without having in itself the power to observe the property and order thereunto, punish the offences of all those of that society, there and there only is political society, where every one of the members hath quitted this natural power, resigned it up into the hands of the community in all cases that exclude him not from appealing for protection to the law established by it. There. Alienate. You don't know what alienation means, do you? You don't know what an alienable versus an inalienable right is. An inalienable right is when you can't exchange. It can't be made not yours. An alienable right is one that can. So obviously, in a state of nature, where you can, if you read literally any political theory at all, in a state of nature, you can, as per Hobbes, as per Locke, do a whole bunch of violence to each other. You obviously can't do that in civil society. Obviously. That is alienated from you. That is relegated to a different body that is held in common, that has magisterial power over everybody. Jesus Christ, it's not a hard book. It's a boring book. Locke is boring. These theorists are easy mode. They're easy. If you bother to try. Which you very clearly did not. Let's hear how I'm weak.
Engaging with it. So to be clear, what's
Alienation is what happens to the guy in District 9. How true.
Sunday is saying about Locke is completely absurd, because the entire point of Locke's central political work, which is known as the Second Treatise on Government, is to explain why government is legitimate only so long as it protects the people's natural rights, and why the people retain the right to resist a government that becomes tyrannical.
Okay. You actually gain the right to resist a government that becomes tyrannical, by the by. Not the underlying prime right that is the source of this, but obviously in the absence of a government, you don't have a right to resist a government in particular. That is an elaboration in civil society. Leaving that aside, that's going to be by implication. It's not going to be in the actual text. Leaving that aside, you actually need to read the first couple of books in the Second Treatise on Government. You actually need to read them in order, because those are in sections so that you can refer back to previous sections so you can see its consistency and test its consistency. It's kind of the reason for that notation. Because these are individual statements. They're individual arguments, right? So you read one argument taken out of context. Read, oh, the absolute right to not be arbitrarily oppressed or whatever. You cannot be enslaved. And you took that to mean that human beings cannot give up certain rights. Categorically. And you also assumed that giving up those rights was not the condition of political legitimacy. But it is. Because the actual thesis of liberalism is that legitimacy is by dint of the consent of the governed, not that their rights are inalienable. Which is really important to understand, because in some liberal theorists, all rights are alienable. All of them. Even down to, like Hobbes. For Hobbes, if you get enslaved and you don't die, that's because you consented to your enslavement instead of fighting to the death. That's Hobbes. First liberal theorist.
Retain the right to resist a government that becomes tyrannical. Yeah? Locke isn't arguing that all rights are alienable. I can't see.
Not all rights are alienable. The conditions of legitimacy are that rights are alienable.
How he can say that. Locke is arguing the exact opposite.
I notice we don't have quotes here. Because he only read those 2 lines.
Individuals entrust limited powers to government, but they retain the fundamental rights that make resistance to tyranny possible. I can't believe you can read Locke and have the take that he had. I can't believe it.
It's because you didn't read Locke. You probably watched Sargon of Akkad talk about Locke at some point. That's about the level you're operating at.
If all rights had simply been alienated to government, Locke's entire argument would collapse. Like, that's why.
How do you get police in Locke? Go on. Explain. Call in, please. I really want this guy to call in. Here. Call in. I'm live now. It'll be fun. Oh, I think I put quotes there. I need to put a different punctuation mark. Oh, I already put one in. That's why it's confused me. Okay, there we go.
Like President Sunday, what he says about Locke here is so bizarre. I mean, did he even read Locke?
I don't know. Did he?
I think the reason he's bringing up Locke like this is because he's trying to do this, like, puff his political chest out, and he's signaling to his politically illiterate audience that he somehow knows theory better than Mearsheimer.
That's a cool little animation. Can we see that again?
His politically illiterate audience that he somehow knows theory better than Mearsheimer.
I actually have a very politically literate audience. They often know more than I do, and I pay attention to them.
Which is just absurd. It's just absolutely absurd. And he doesn't, because even when he's trying to argue past Mearsheimer and establish himself as someone who's just that good at theory, he still fucks up and gets it wrong.
Uh-huh.
And Mearsheimer was speaking to a live audience at the time, giving a lecture, while President Sunday has the advantage of speaking post hoc in a recorded video.
He thinks... He doesn't realize. He thinks these are video essays. That's amazing. I had less prep than Mearsheimer did for this. What do you... You realize he prepared that? Mearsheimer wasn't in a debate. He prepared that lecture possibly months in advance. Like really? You know about the fact that I have Lego. You know about the fact that I have a sword on the wall. You know about a weird amount of like quirky details about my room. But or office, technically, room's over there. But you don't know that this is a Clips channel? Huh. How incredibly strange.
And he still can't approach Mearsheimer's level of sophistication. And the whole video, as you'll see, is like this. Instead of critiquing the actual argument Mearsheimer's actually making, he constantly substitutes a different argument. And it's usually a debate about classical political philosophy or Marxist political economy. And then he criticizes that instead.
Marxist political... To talk about Marxist political economy? What? What does he think? What does he think that means? You mean Marx's critique of political economy?
So to his uninformed audience, he appears like, profoundly knowledgeable because he's, supposedly discussing theories.
He's jealous of your wall sword. It's actually leaning up against the bookshelf. I don't have a stand for it on the wall.
As it were.
I've got a cutlass back there too. That one's my partner's though.
But nothing he's saying is related to the point that Mearsheimer is making. And it seems like no one picks up on it in his in the video.
Okay, this is going at a snail's pace, and I am not going to spend this much time listening to him waffle around. Dear, for the love of God, listen, for future reference, buddy, okay? Write down your argument, then look at it very hard and figure out how to write it shorter, okay? This is something they'll teach you in university. They should teach it to you in high school. Don't use 10 words when you can use 5 words. Don't repeat yourself, please, and don't dwell on random commenters or side issues when there's supposedly a thesis here. We are 27 minutes into an hour and 28-minute long video. There's an hour left, which, to be fair, is a lot of time. And but we're a big chunk into the critique, and you led with you cherry picking out of Locke, having not read him, not understanding the argument or the place of those quotes in the argument, and then accusing me of not reading something that you didn't read. We're off to a very bad start, and now you are meandering and wasting my time.
And again, I've said this many times to the fart sniffers that find the channel and just don't get what I'm doing with regards to the left-right power.
Like Sunday interacts with chat fairly often in clips. Does this guy think Sunday's just talking to voices in his head? I suppose so. These are all pre-recorded videos after all. Even this is a pre-recorded video. You are all just figments of my imagination. Okay, so remember, if I go, you all go.
Paradigm. Deconstruction and reconstruction go hand in hand. So good criticism starts by reconstructing your opponent's argument as accurately as possible, like not creating a straw man, before deconstructing it. And President Sunday doesn't do it.
I'm going to give you 10 seconds to lead into an interesting point, and if you don't, I'm going to jump ahead by 30 minutes.
That. And it's called failing to meet the first requirement of criticism. It's so basic.
I'm going to make them slow seconds.
And it's shocking that they're so blind to this, really.
Inalienable meaning they apply to everybody and they cannot be taken away. And the point I made last time, and I'd like to emphasize again tonight, is when you marry that sense of individualism with inalienable rights,
we're going to let this point start, and then if it bores me, we're going to move on.
Get a universalist ideology.
What? How?
The point I made last time and make again here is that liberal hegemony, or even liberalism, when it applies to foreign policy, has this universalist dimension that is of great importance.
I really don't think it does. I think what you're pointing at is that liberalism is actually downstream from capitalism, and the tokenization, well, I mean, the making fungible of everything in terms of exchangeable value. I think that's what you're pointing to. Fun fact, by the way, Hobbes was briefly a member of the Virginia Company. That's the one that sent Radcliffe and Pocahontas, who got his flesh scooped out by seashells. I saw the type of knife they would have used at the Museum of History in Ottawa. It was in Gatineau, rather. It was very horrifying. Or that's what should be pointed to, rather. I don't think it's universalizable. I think what's happened, though, is that in the absence of any fetters on exchange, because of the breakdown of everything into terms of utilitarianism and value, utilitarianism being basically a political philosophy. Oh, he thinks this is Marxist political economy. This is Marx's critique of political economy. This is not Marx's political economy. That doesn't realize it's actually... But he doesn't know what political economy is, so whatever. Be concerned with specifically the allocation of fungible commodities. It is the subsuming of all authority and all structures under... How long is this going to be? How long is this quote going to be? Where's the critique? Give us a critique, sir. Ambitions, I should say. By which I really mean in the absence of any solid... There's a quote in a minute, okay? We're getting to it. Barriers to its proliferation.
Did you see what happened?
No.
We're back to the old Marxist class primary nonsense.
What?
I need to do another video on this because...
Wait, what the... Sorry, hang on. Maybe I missed something. Absence of any solid barriers to its proliferation. It's because of the breakdown of everything into terms of utilitarianism and subsuming of all authority and all structures under capitalism, in its ambitions, I should say. By which I really mean in the absence of any solid barriers to its proliferation. I didn't talk about class at all in that section, unless I said earlier and I missed it, but I'm pretty sure I'm not talking about class here.
Did you see what happened?
Class has nothing to do, I mean, class does have a lot to do with this, but class is a separate issue to the way in which all things are made fungible with each other through value under capitalism. Class is determined by your relationship to capital, but or rather, class describes your relationship to capital, but you can describe capital without that.
We're back to the old Marxist class primary nonsense. I need to do
Class primary nonsense. Okay. If wealth is acquired through capitalism, and you need wealth to have political and military power, to train and arm and fund soldiers, to pay for all of the things that make a state strong and competitive with their neighbors, to keep weaker states happy with it and friendly with it and wanting to be their friend. If all that stuff requires capital, then winning at capital becomes the condition of political power. Right? So that makes it so that there is no longer any barrier between exchange and anything that you think is important in politics. All of it can be bought. All of it has a price tag, definitionally. That has nothing to do with class, though. That it would indicate that who has a say really is determined by who has control over capital, and so to that extent, there would be an intrinsic capitalist bent towards decisions made at a political level. But I wasn't talking about class. And the reason why that matters is because this notion of exchangeable rights is kind of actually taking commodity exchange as the model for social relations. It's saying that social relations are the product of an exchange, not of a natural relationship, not of a top-down God-given order, even if that is invoked as in Locke. It is fundamentally the product of an exchange within God's rational order, if you will.
another video on this because it's a real problem. I see it every single day, and it's something so many leftists sleepwalk through without...
Like who? One of my main annoyances is most leftists don't even bother thinking about this.
Without realizing or consciously being aware that they're not engaging in serious analysis when they talk like this.
What would serious analysis be? Cherry-picking quotes out of Marx and not reading the actual book and then accusing other people of not reading the book you didn't read?
Mearsheimer is making a causal argument about liberal foreign policy.
Uh-huh.
His claim...
Well, he specified maybe liberalism as well, actually, but go on.
...is that the people who believe rights belong to every human being also naturally begin to think those rights should be protected everywhere.
That's not liberals.
Whether we agree with that logic or not, this is
Not anti-liberal leftists believe in human rights. That's not liberals. Human rights as a notion actually kind of pre-exists liberalism by a little bit. Not by a super long time, but by a little bit. Largely in the contradictions between the need to preach to all nations and the violence of people like the conquistadors against the natives of the places they invaded, by churchmen like Vittoria and whatnot. There's a whole book on this called The Nomos of the Earth by Carl Schmitt. You can kind of take to the bank on that because he wasn't a fan of human rights. Anyways.
Mearsheimer's explanation of why liberal states become interventionists.
This guy is not even questioning why Sunday has the Chex Quest HUD on the bottom of the screen in a supposed video essay. That's a fair point. I would have questions myself.
President Sunday doesn't address that at all. What he does instead is he changes the subject.
All right, I'm bored. We're jumping ahead 30 minutes, okay? So we were at, we'll say roughly 30. We're going to jump to 60. Life's too short, and I want to get to other things. Sorry, you bored me. You bored me. You took too long, and you got too much wrong. That rhymed.
You deliberately simplify reality in order.
Okay, we're gonna go back. We're gonna go back 5 minutes, okay? I want to see this thing here. Okay, we got a dome. We got a dome here. We're gonna start at the dome.
Completely separate. They have different logic, but they work to the same IR theory. Repeating.
I'm actually more fuzzy on this, so maybe he got me here. Hang on. You never know. Oh God, that's on the screen for a long time. That's on the screen for a long time. Oh, I see why it's so long. How much of this video is me? How much of this video is just clips of me? Oh, that might explain a lot. Maybe there's not actually a lot of critique here, which would be really. Let's see, 55. Let's see what happens if I jump at random intervals. Go here.
Of the lecture that Mearsheimer is giving.
Essentially a true. Okay, no, he is talking over me moving around.
But it's exactly the opposite of what Mearsheimer is doing.
Okay, cool. Okay, so let's go back to 50 minutes with the dome. We're going to the dome.
National politics, they're different frameworks. Just think of it as like.
Right, hang on. I want to hear this different frameworks.
It's not the same thing.
Well, it's not.
Realism is literally just liberalism at the state level.
Yes.
It's fucking absurd. It's not.
It's because international relation theorists in the realist tradition tend to treat states as subjects, and they fail to recognize that actually they are nexuses of various different drives that come from well outside of the state borders often, and do not actually represent any kind of internal rationality belonging to the state itself. So, for example, John Mearsheimer actually has a book that he co-wrote with somebody else whose name I can't remember, called How States Think. And he applies rationality and cognition. He anthropomorphizes the state, as a matter of fact. Even just saying how states think is a mistake. There's a similar book title rather, by someone who I have a lot of respect for, named James C. Scott, who unfortunately died far too young at the age of, I don't know, something, but he was quite old. Old relative to me anyways for now. But his point was actually that, not that states literally see, but that if you adopt the posture of a state attempting to make things legible to a central administrative body, quote unquote, these are the moves it makes. This is what it leaves out of the equation. This is its tendency to not perceive, for example, organic on-the-ground order, or to see organic on-the-ground order, to perceive it, to register it, you could say, as disorder, right? Sort of common with a kind of Bergsonian analysis, actually, which argues that, there isn't actually such a thing as nothing as such. There are only orders that we are not interested in. There is no such thing as true chaos. There are only orders that we as human beings are not interested in. And that's sort of what James C. Scott does with the state in that approach. Mearsheimer is not so careful, and he falls back essentially on the same kind of anthropomorphizing, agentializing thing that Nietzsche talks about when he talks about the atom as a projection of the soul superstition. That Susan Oyama in evolutionary science talks about when she refers to biologists talking about the gene as if it was a little man with a plan for the organism. She calls it the homunculoid gene. Same thing. Earlier in this video, this guy, Beyond Left and Right, said that this video this video of mine apparently is good for analyzing to understand how the left behaves in practice. And I said that was an interesting statement. And the reason why is because it means that this guy is thinking in terms of big, simple shapes. There is just the left, there is the right, there is the center. There are these big, simple shapes. And like an ape that can only identify like fruits and sticks in the environment, he needs big, simple shapes to make sense of the world. which leaves me at a disadvantage because it is very difficult to explain actual complicated political theory to someone who can only think in terms of balloons. I'm sorry, it's not your fault. You were failed. Maybe as a start to correct the problem, actually read the stuff you're going to accuse other people of not reading first. It'll save you a bit of pain.
Not the same thing. Realism and liberalism are competing traditions within...
He is right, though. The state is a square. There is no place for a square, my lord. And it's only the first level.
International relations. It's not all the same IR theory as is written in the title. And they rest on different assumptions about international politics. They're different frameworks. Just think of it. Think of it as like... I've used this analogy before
Dome.
for other things, like a temple that has pillars and
That's a rotunda, isn't it?
foundation. Just think of the pillars. The pillars are the assumptions. And realism has
You could just say you don't need to explain pillars to us.
a different set of pillars to liberalism. Right? They're completely separate. They have different logic, but they're working coherently within their own tortuous logic. Realists, and Mearsheimer is very clear on realism. He's a really good proponent of it. He's a really clear proponent of it, let me say that.
He's actually kind of infamous at this point for contradicting himself pretty readily. One of the reasons why he tends to not discourse that much with other political scientists, but he does a lot with people on the news and with people on YouTube and with popular audiences, is kind of precisely because he's been sort of chasing popular topics and has not really been doing super serious work in political theory for a very long time. And to be honest with you, his even his earlier books weren't that great. It's kind of the same impulse that makes a whole lot of people run to people like Professor Zhang. Because again, Mearsheimer provides big chunky shapes for morons. And sometimes, by the way, I don't hate what Mearsheimer says. Sometimes he's actually got a point, but he tends to be speaking more in the key of like a journalist or a commentator, not a political theorist. He's actually very unsophisticated as a political theorist. I have met sophisticated political theorists. I've been taught by them. I was not a sophisticated person at the time. I don't consider myself one now. But there is a difference. There is a world of difference between someone who's actually serious and Mearsheimer. And Mearsheimer is not serious. Mearsheimer is not serious at all. He's not like useless or stupid per se, but like, I'm sorry, like if you put him into a room with someone like Wendy Brown, I don't think he could compete. Put him into a room with someone like I don't know who's still living. Rob Walker would eat this guy alive. But anywho.
What realists emphasize is like essentially anarchy. Like there's no real order. It's all just every state out for itself.
What?
What realists emphasize is like essentially anarchy. Like there's no real order. It's all just every state out for itself.
I mean that is an order though. The point is that there is no top-down authority, right? There's no policeman. That's what anarchy is. Not that there's no order. The reason why they talk about anarchy is because they're talking specifically about the order. They're making predictive statements on the basis of the order. You couldn't predict things or really do international relations theory if anarchy meant that things were completely disordered. Like, obviously.
I don't fully subscribe to this, by the way. I think, like, in general, the model kind of, like, as a broad indicator can be quite helpful. I don't fully... Most
people clowned Mearsheimer and the realist tradition when I did my IR theory classes. IR theory, in general, is very outdated. Which is a weird thing to say. IR theory in general, not just realism. IR theory in general is often very outdated. I would say in general it's very outdated for the simple reason that it has to take, as its primary pieces in its toolkit, things that have been challenged and analyzed better elsewhere that they are not engaged with. So, like, one of the problems with IR theory is that it often is very isolated from the rest of political theory and critical theory and sociology and all those other things that are doing very fine-grained analyses of how communities and societies and groups and states work and economies and whatnot. And so they'll just go back and they'll cherry pick from a whole host of things based on vibes. And this is one of the reasons why a whole lot of IR theory goes back to Thucydides, despite the fact that Thucydides was never, ever talking about states, was never, ever talking about any political community that would have any point of reference in like a modern American setting, and IR theory as it is kind of largely emerges out of American political science as we understand it. And yeah. Oh my god, he hasn't even read an anarchist? Well, be careful here, because when we're talking about anarchy in this context, we're not talking about anarchism in the sense of someone like I don't know. We're not talking about anarchist anarchy. We're talking about anarchy in international relations theory, which is the idea that between states there is no authority to hold them all in awe in Hobbesian language. So as a result, you have to understand politics not by reference to norms or hierarchical structures or whatever. You have to understand them in terms of on some theories, the self-interests of states, right? And there are competing views on this. Like Kenneth Waltz, for example, argues that states tend to be more defensive. Someone like Mearsheimer even would argue that, like, sometimes, alliances are completely appropriate, and so it's not necessary that in a state of anarchy that states necessarily always go to war. Actually, no, I think that is Mearsheimer's position. I might be thinking of somebody. I think I'm thinking of somebody else. But and even like in Kenneth Waltz, like there's levels of analysis approaches where they seem to be going more fine-grained, but the problem is they're always questions of scale. And the problem is that, first of all, the rules change at different scales, but secondly, different scales obscure the ways in which smaller, more subtle drives actually constitute both the larger and the smaller scales. And so, like, that whole approach is just really fraught, right? You're actually better off going with someone like Weber or with like Robert Michel rather than with modern IR theorists, simply because at least they recognize that states are not entities. States are movements and composites, right? They are technologies, maybe. They are forms of organization, but they don't have an internal and external integrity. They can appear to have that, but they don't really. There's another great book by Wendy Brown called Walled States Waning Sovereignty, which goes into this a little bit. But I digress. Anyways, long story short. Yeah, this is wrong.
Fully subscribe to this myself, just for the record, because I know that. Because again, we're back to the fact that people just don't know how to fucking argue. I'm going to get tons of comments criticizing me for defending Mearsheimer.
I'm curious, what are the comments? Also, Mearsheimer is indeed among the best proponents of an idea one needs to take seriously, even if one disagrees with it ultimately. Which one is that? I honestly find President Sunday hilarious. Is that a nice kind of hilarious? I hope so. There's not a whole lot talking here, actually. Sunday is very typical of the sociopaths of his generation. They ape leftism because it allows them to treat people badly, while society at large approves of their moral vocabulary. What an incredibly peculiar thing to say.
That's the kind of irresponsible spending that causes so many business ventures to fail. You're forgetting
Richard
the third rule.
McCrory _Neff super chatted $66.83. A contribution to help restore funds after your PC meltdown. Only awake but watched your stream last night on Emily Wilson's Odyssey review. Disavowal was the word that came to mind to encapsulate her review. Funds can go either way. Thank you.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you, Richard.
And defending realism and all this kind of stuff, which I'm not doing. I'm critiquing the fucking awful, the fucking dog shit way that President Sunday's behaving. Yeah, so the realist, the way the world exists in realism, it's like this situation where each state's out for its own. And it's all distribution of power. And liberals, what they emphasize are domestic institutions and international cooperation and the spread, this kind of like spread across the world of liberal norms. And I think most of the people who are listening to me right now, I don't think any of us really buy into liberalism.
He has 10 seconds to be interesting, then I'm jumping forward another 30 minutes.
In that sense, I think there are very few people. They do obviously exist on YouTube, but not in the areas that we kind of talk amongst quite clearly. And just the two separate frameworks to reduce realism to liberalism at the state level, like you just what are you talking about?
He's still repeating that. He doesn't understand any of these words, and it's very frustrating.
You're changing the scale. You've got the whole thing wrong.
How long is this video? Longer than we're covering it.
And you're just ignoring the fundamental disagreements. And, you know, you're bypassing the need to explain why fucking literal generations of scholars have treated them as distinct schools of thought. I never thought
What do you think liberalism is? What do you think a critique of liberalism in general is? You're taking this huge array of diverse logics and philosophies from completely different people in different time periods, and you're saying all of them grouped together are bunk. Why? Well, because they operate according to a common framework. They take certain things methodologically for granted, and they work from there. And so that is what you attack. That's what I'm doing with IR theory. That's what I'm doing with realism, specifically realism. It's weird saying that about IR theory in general. I probably would, to be honest with you. But simply because it's like, could you do IR theory differently? Yes, and some do. Not in this sphere, not at a popular level, because realists produce garbage that tastes good. It's the McDonald's of political science. It's trash. But there it is.
I'd be in a position where I'm defending Western academia to this level. Like, it's kind of hilarious, really, but it's so bad. But yeah, it's okay because we got President Sunday here wiping.
I'll explain why you're doing this. It's because you're a reactionary. You think you're something else, but you're actually just a reactionary. You have a bunch of stereotypes in your head. You have no critical thinking capacities. And so you just bounce between these balloons that make up your world. And I feel sorry for you because your entire existence is incredibly mundane intellectually. It's just incredibly boring. You have these big shapes, and all you can do is point at the big shape and smile and point at the other big shape and scowl. And that's your life. That's the ceiling of your mental potential as it is right now. Or so it seems. Hopefully I'm wrong. I've learned to not be optimistic.
The table clean with them. Just fucking amateurish, fart-sniffing nonsense from another pseudo-academic Marxist talking head. Like,
I'm not a Marxist.
Like, their YouTube is fucking crawling with these people. And
Where's the other President Sunday? I want to know.
Big problem is that they're capturing too many well-meaning people who are having the time wasters. That's why
well-meaning people. You were just talking about how all the people in the comments are morons earlier.
I keep going after these people.
Okay, let's actually take a look at his channel. Who are these people? Kyle Kalinske? The Vanguard? I don't even know what that is. I'm a Vigland? I'm not... FT signifier, bad empanada, FT signifier, bad empanada. I don't think you do go after these people, whatever you think that means. I have no idea what these people refers to. I seem to be the first here.
Yeah, and in this comment, let's just play the comment again, just a sec.
He's defending realism, that's what he's ultimately doing here. Well, he's defending capitalism under the mistaken idea that he's defending realism. That's the problem. Because realism essentially attributes the same individuality and the fungible exchange of values that liberalism does. Really, editor, you cut that? To human beings, to states, right? I swear to God, everybody hates me and they're just pretending to like me. International relations realism is literally just liberalism at the... I'm still going to pay him. State level. It's actually very silly.
Yeah, and surprise, surprise, he's bringing up capitalism out of thin air. It's capitalism all the way down, baby.
What do you think capitalism is? What do you think? Do you think it's when you buy and sell things in a heterosexual way? What do you think capitalism means?
Mearsheimer hasn't been discussing capitalism at all throughout this.
Yeah, that's why I said he doesn't realize it. It's by implication. He is taking in premises of capitalism and naturalizing them into the conditions of sovereignty without realizing the step he's making.
This section of the lecture, he's explaining the logic of liberal internationalism. I feel like I'm going to go to Z saying these things over and over again. He's explaining why like liberalism is like a fucking cancer and it just spreads around the world. He's explaining why liberals believed spreading democracy would create a more peaceful world. He doesn't believe that. You don't believe that. You who are listening to me, I'm pretty sure you don't believe that. I don't believe that. None of us believe that. He's talking about something that he did.
All right, I'm bored. We're jumping ahead. I'm bored. Ooh, it changed color here. Why did it change color here? What's this? What is this?
Or they're just naive. Look, I didn't call you stupid. You don't have to cry in the comments.
Who?
Fucking President Sunday was projecting all along. This.
Okay, hang on. I like the acid here. Where are we going with this? Where's this coming from?
Opened a book like that and read it, then that means he.
Oh wait, what book did I read?
What?
Wait, let's see.
This guy is.
He's accusing me of not reading a book again. I love this. Let's see. National relations theory. It's not. This isn't good. This isn't good, guys.
Yeah. This, he keeps throwing mud at people, but the mud can go straight back to him. This guy is
what a weird critique of a book. I am rubber, you are glue.
A phony. This guy is a complete and utter phony. At this point where I'm covering this part here, we're 30 minutes into his videos, and I've demonstrated quite clearly just how utterly bad he is at this. This is someone who thinks realism is liberalism at the state level.
Yeah.
There's no way, I refuse to believe that this guy has actually read a single book on international relations.
This is true. This is all AI generated, okay? It's all fake. Even this is. It's just a really good camera I've got.
He's definitely not read any books on classical liberalism. It's quite clear. There's no way you can get it that wrong. It's impossible.
I love what he's calling it classical liberalism too.
Like, look, if he's
like, it's just everything's so Sargon coded. Not that people don't say classical liberalism outside of that sphere, but that's kind of the move. That's kind of the move. Is they're like, oh, I'm not a liberal like these gay contemporary liberals. I'm a classical liberal, right?
Physically opened a book like that and read it, then that means he must have an IQ of like less than 60 and just couldn't process what he was reading, because you literally can't be this bars without being a completely ignorant charlatan. And that's me being generous. I think he's more likely just an ignorant charlatan, because saying that he's more likely lied about not reading the book rather than he actually read the book and he was just too stupid to process the information, I think that's a lot more generous. I mean, saying that, the guy's definitely not clever, but I don't think he's like, I don't think he has that level of like, you know, cognitive impairment. I think he's just lazy and he's just a chancer. That's what it is.
I'm a chancer? What does that mean?
Just as he threw mud at Bad and Panada, accusing him of using AI to write his scripts, I'm going to accuse a guy of using AI to tell him about which fucking books are considered good for international relations. Fucking Brian C. Schmidt. It's just fucking bullshit. Like,
Actually, you want to know where I got my list from? I went into this office and I talked to this guy and I asked, "Hey, Professor Walker, can you suggest a list of books?" And he said, "All right, one moment. Do you have a pen?" Okay. And then I took down the list of books, and I picked out a fraction of them, and I read them. I think he's in Brazil right now. I hope. I hope he's alive. We haven't heard from him in a long time. Did he sound like that? Oh, yeah, 100%. Listen to him.
Things in Ottawa, working on Parliament Hill, and I then got a job in cultural studies sociology at Trent. And I had faced an option: do I stay somewhere in Ontario, converting myself to a cultural studies sociologist?
This guy's fucking awesome. Anyways, I digress. He wrote a really good book. A really, really good book. He actually wrote several books, but Inside Outside, which I wish I had gotten signed. But he wrote this book, which, if you can get a hold of it, not easy, is exceptionally good. This is Inside Outside International Relations as Political Theory. Robert Walker, is, I think he's still alive, very interested in relationships between politics and time. And among other things, in this book, he talks about, for example, what the political discourse of anarchy does in terms of how do I want to put it? Asynchronicities in time. So time is understood differently in the anarchy between states than it is within states. Within states, you have progress and development. We can use sort of a Whig theory of history and talk about different states being at different time periods, quote unquote. Sort of in the same way as like IQ tests rate, you know, your like your ability relative to the average of your age range and so on. But we don't do that in the state of anarchy. Why? Because it's timeless. In the absence of authority orienting, legitimizing one trajectory of development, IR theorists don't rate development, i.e. progress, i.e. time, in between states. Or at the international scale, which means that actually the possibility of a confederation into a world state or into a community that is different from the state, despite the fact that the state is not an eternal feature, a constant feature in human history, they're trapped in the current situation. They can't think outside of it. The box IR theorists generally are working in is one that commits them to only a presentist view that treats the present situation as essentially permanent. Anyways, by the way, if you have a professor in a field, they've spent decades of their lives in all likelihood studying something, ask them for recommendations. Hey, what can I read to get an edge on this? What can I read to know more about this? Because they will be happy to tell you. They love this stuff. They accepted often very poor salaries and a very difficult, stressful, underpaid lifestyle because they love this material. They will be thrilled Sometimes some professors don't like people, but most of mine have been pretty good. My professors always seem surprised when I ask. That's because a lot of students are there to get the degree and leave, and they don't have a passion for the subject matter. And a lot of professors have become very, just pessimistic. They expect the minimum. But in my experience, even professors that don't like you will always give you help when you ask, because that's what they're there for. That's what gives them pleasure. It's one of the reasons why I have no respect whatsoever for Slavoj Žižek, because he talks about it like a joke, how he hates talking to his students, because he's a narcissistic asshole who bought his own rock star bullshit amongst non-experts, and he hasn't written a good book in 30 fucking years. Anywho. Oh wait, that's not a video. Here we go.
The people eat this shit up, really. Fucking President Sunday was projecting all along. This fucking AI shit that he's been throwing mud at people. He's using AI. It's the only explanation. This guy's an utter phony. It's just so performative. People who can't see this are either incredibly young, and that's me being generous, or they're just naive.
Actually, fun fact, my analytics, most of my audience is in their 30s and 40s. Most of my audience is older than me. That's weird.
Look, I didn't call you stupid. You don't have to cry in the comments. You don't have to cry. Because I know what's going to happen is they'll ignore all of the minutes I've spent giving actual arguments. And then what they'll do is they'll cling on to the bit where I've kind of criticized, his presentation, or called him dumb. And they'll just bitch about that, and they'll just...
No, that is what you anticipated. But that was a mistake. See, what you didn't anticipate was that I actually read the logbook. And so I could show that you didn't read the logbook, while you were accusing me of not reading the logbook because you apparently have a better grasp of log. But unfortunately, I did read the logbook. I read it several times, as a matter of fact. I read it so much, I know offhand when someone says something that can't be in there. And so the first thing we did in this video was we showed that you are the fraud. No, fortunately, you're not defrauding very many people. I don't see this going very far. You're incredibly lazy, incredibly disingenuous, and dare I say, incredibly stupid. But, well, there it is. Rub some lipstick on your face. The sun's out.
Bitch and bitch and bitch. How dare you say that? And they'll ignore the fact that he's basically smeared Mearsheimer. This whole thing is just a fucking smear. They'll not care about that. Mearsheimer's fair game. The way that President Sunday has really disgustingly smeared Mearsheimer.
Again?
That's not an issue for them. The issue is that...
And now it's back to the audience. Okay. I'm petty enough. Okay, guys, listen, we're going to jump ahead, okay? We're going to jump ahead to the conclusion. We're going to jump to the conclusion, okay? I love my job.
I've criticized
proliferation.
That room must absolutely fucking stink of farts.
It's I mean, it might. It's my partner's dad's den, so it very well could.
It's a classic Marxist word salad. These people are...
I'm not even a Marxist. I respect Marx. I use Marx. I'm not a Marxist.
Insufferable. I'm only doing this so the younger ones in his audience who still have potential don't get completely sucked into this fucking poxy, pretentious Marxist fart-sniffing pipeline.
I can't tell. He keeps talking about farts and his background is gas. I'm just saying.
He could have made a good video. Because I think the weakest part of Mearsheimer's argument is when he covered Iraq. Like, if President Sunday just didn't decide to be a complete and utter lazy twat and actually did a serious video, he could have just done a video on Mearsham's position on Iraq.
He actually doesn't know what and he doesn't know what a stream is. This is... Listen, Lord, I said make my enemies ridiculous. I didn't mean like this. Make them ridiculous and interesting, please. This was boring and dumb, and embarrassing for you. Hey, call in, beyond left and right. Call in. I wanna hear you. I wanna hear what you sound like when it's not pre-prepared. I think that'll be fun because we saw how well you did when you were pre-prepared. I really want to see you. I'll be nice. I'll be super nice. I won't be mean. I'll let so much slide, okay? People will be disappointed because I'll be so passive. I just want to hear you. Anytime, come in. Let's move on. I don't want to do something too long. We've been going for a little while. We're at the hour and 58 point. What can I cover that's short? Or maybe I won't. Maybe I'm going to call tonight and I'm going to get some proper sleep. You know, I think I'm going to do that. Brooks, are you live? Yeah, we're done. We went for 2 hours. You're late. Late. I need to go fart in front of my books. Helps preserve the flavor. Let's see. Nah, he's not live. Is Jordy live? I bet Jordy's live. Jordy's always live at night. He's not. Isn't this his job? What's with all these people never streaming? Who? Okay. Is Ico live? No. Well, that's it. I tried. Ooh, actually, I wonder if there's a Voyage Future playlist. I'll send you there. Let's see. Okay, who in my subscriptions is live right now? It's gotta be somebody, right? What the hell? See if Rezzy's live. Oh, there he is. Send you to Rezzy. Have a good night, everyone. Cheers. Bye-bye.